All praise to the Creator of all things. Blessings on the creation. Thanks to the subscribers and supporters of the channel from Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, Chicago, Virginia, Mississippi, Texas, Oregon, California, and all other places joining us on the channel. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you think that it is helpful, the information, the content of this channel. If you think it is helpful to the community, please like and subscribe and set the notification so that you will know when I'm live. You may join me in the live chat during today's podcast. Even now, I see Brother Walker is over there now. If you'd like to join him and join in on the conversation, Shaken, you're welcome. You're welcome to join in on the conversation, or you may leave a comment in the comment section after the podcast, or you may email me at theoriginalchurchtalk@gmail.com. Hello, it is Saturday, September 30th, 2023, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Welcome to Church Talk Unlimited with James Paul Berry. Today's topic is Satan real? Is the devil real? The Bible teaches in the book of James, chapter 4, verse 7, submit yourselves therefore to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. James chapter 4, verse 7. Submit yourselves therefore to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. According to information that I gathered from Wikipedia.com, a devil is the personification of evil, as it is conceived in various cultures and religious traditions. It is seen as the objectification of a hostile and destructive force. Jeffrey Burton Russell states that the different conceptions of the devil can be summed up as, number one, a principle of evil independent from God. Number two, an aspect of God. Number three, a created being turning evil, i.e. a fallen angel. And four, a symbol of human evil. Now, this is what I got from Wikipedia. A principle of evil independent from God, an aspect of God, a being that has been created that turned evil, like a fallen angel, and four, a symbol of human evil. Each tradition, culture, and religion with the devil in its mythos offers a different lens on manifestations of evil. The history of these perspectives intertwines with theology, mythology, psychiatry, art, and literature, developing independently within each of the traditions. It occurs historically in many contexts and cultures and is given many different names. Satan, Lucifer, Beelzebub, Mephistopheles, Iblis, and attributes. He is portrayed as blue, black, or red. He is portrayed as having horns on his head and without horns, and so on. While depictions of the devil are usually taken seriously, there are times when it is treated less seriously. When, for example, devil figures are used in advertising and on candy wrappers. Flip Wilson, a great famous comedian and actor, used to say on his show, "The devil made me do it." Is Satan real? Did the devil make us do ungodly things? There is a story in the Bible, in the book of Job. And in this story, sorry about my dog. In this story, Satan approaches God about Job's reason for serving God. And I'm paraphrasing the story, so you may not find this particular perspective or version in any of your Bibles, but we all are paraphrasing because there are over 2,877 versions, so this is my version. So Satan approaches God, and according to the book of Job, the sons of God had assembled themselves, and Satan was among them, and God asked Satan, "Why are you here? Or where have you come from?" And Satan answered and said, "From going to and fro in the earth and up and down in it." And of course, Peter talks later on in the New Testament about Satan walking about as a fierce lion, seeking whom he may devour. So Satan approaches God about Job, as Satan tells God, "I'm going back and forth in the earth." And God's answer to Satan was, "Have you considered my servant Job? There's none like him in all the earth. He hates evil, he's upright, fears God." And Satan, in so many words, tells God the only reason that Job is serving you is because you have a hedge of wealth built around him. And he tells God if it weren't for that, he would cause Job to curse God to his face. So God accepts the challenge of the devil in the story, or Satan in this story in the book of Job. But God allows Satan to only do certain things, and he couldn't touch Job at first. So in the story, God allowed Satan to destructively touch Job's wealth and destroying crops and livestock, and then family, servants. His 10 children were killed because, according to the story, God had given the devil control of the wind, the four winds of the earth, and the winds came and blew the house in on the children. And then finally, God gave Satan the permission to attack Job's health. Is Satan real? And as Job, who had been known throughout the East as the greatest, who had been wealthy, 10 children, friends, respect in the community, goes and sits down in basically a trash dump where they burn trash, and covered himself in ashes and what Satan had done to his body was cause him to have sores on his body from the crown of his head to the soles of his feet, of his feet. And the story says that Job sat there, this once great man of God sat there in these ashes and used broken pieces of pottery to scratch himself. And his friends showed up, and for a whole week they didn't speak to him. They sat and they talked among themselves, trying to figure out what had happened to this man. He must have done something wrong. And eventually the story goes on, and Job questions why he's having to go through this. And God has a conversation with Job and telling Job how blessed he was. And eventually Job's get other children, he get other wealth, he get other health before the story ends. Is Satan real? According to what I understand, this is basically a story. The real Satan is in us when we make decisions to go against the creator of us and of where we are and why we are and what we are. That's Satan. When we look in the mirror and we know that we're looking at someone who does less than what they are supposed to do, that's Satan. When we look at ourselves and see that we are doing less than what is desired of us, even by human standards. Is Satan real? Yes, in that way. But a flying devil that zaps people and burns their property and things flying from the air. I know Paul talks about the prince of the power of the air. I don't believe that's the Satan that is afflicting us. I believe it's the Satan that is in us. The good that is in us is overwhelmed sometimes by the bad. And I believe that is what's going on in our churches. That I remember Jesus saying once that there was some who, the devil who comes to steal, to kill, and to destroy. And when there are church leaders who do nothing for the entire career of them at these churches, they don't build up anything but buildings and themselves. All they have to offer is rhetoric, and they don't come up with any ideas how to keep these churches and how to first make these churches strong socioeconomically, as well as having Bible knowledge. They don't come up with anything like that. They build buildings. They have meetings. They have conferences. But people still are not able to stand after 50 years and show any just cause why they have spent so much time, so much money, resources with these preachers. Of course, the preachers want you to keep coming and keep giving money. Is Satan real? Yes. When they ask you to keep paying for something that is not helping the community, it's not helping you, is Satan real? Yes. When you refuse to accept the truth, even though it smacks you in your face. Is Satan real? Yes. When we refuse to hear the truth, not because it's not true, but because of who is saying it. The Apostle Paul asked the church a question once, am I your enemy because I tell you the truth? Satan is your real enemy. The Satan within us, that's our real enemy. I heard someone say once, I'm my own worst enemy. That's because of the Satan that's in me, not because of some spirit taking over me. It's what I've accepted. It's what I have trusted in. I trust in mistreating you rather than embracing you and treating you the way I want you to treat me. But when I treat you the way I should, that's the God in me. Is Satan real? I see all of these people on the streets, homeless, jobless, hopeless, little babies in schools, in elementary schools, are committing suicide. We are spending billions of dollars on Ukraine. We're allowing illegal immigrants to come into America and displace people who already don't have anything. Is Satan real? Yes. In those acts, in those misdeeds of politicians and others who are going against the very simple principle of treat your neighbor the way you want your neighbor to treat you. Yes, Satan is real. And I have dedicated myself on this channel to point out what Satan is doing to the church in terms of neglecting those that are poor. Even in the first century, according to the Bible, when the poor was being neglected, the Grecian women complained, and immediately the apostles said, look out among yourselves, men of good report, that we may appoint over this business. There need to be a business in these churches of helping those that are poor, and especially those that are poor who are faithful members of the church. Why are preachers so selfish? You get your money from the church. You may have a career, you may have retired from a career, but you still are getting, if you're getting a salary from the church, you are getting your career in the church paid for by these people sitting there listening to you. How dare you refuse to do for them what they are doing for you? What do I mean by that? They send you to school, they buy you a house, they buy you a car, they pay for your insurance, your food, your vacations, and all of these things. And I'm not talking about one in particular, I'm talking about all these preachers who get these type of resources through the church. I'm saying, why don't you reverse that? Is Satan real? Yes. Those of you who won't reverse that, those of you who won't get up in the pulpit with the attitude that I'm going to encourage every man in this church to have what I have. If I got the best, I want every brother in this church to have the best just like me. If my wife has the best, I want every woman, every wife in this church to have that. And I know you can't live for people, but you can desire for people. And when you're not spending your own money, it should be pretty easy to share it, especially with those that you call your brothers and sisters. Is Satan real? Hey, and blessings to you, Willie, as well. Satan is a part of us, not no mystical thing that shows up and controls you beyond your ability, but he is, or she is, such a divisive spirit within us that if we are not careful, it can lead us to other things. We can go from being wrong to being evil to being wicked, because we can do it in degrees. You know, of course, as we do things consistently, we become more of what it is that we're doing. We become worse of a person when we listen to the wrong things. And that's what has happened in the church. I saw a video the other day that says, we no longer trust the Black church. That's a shame. You can't even go to church and get proper support. That's a shame. And we say that we are the light of the world. We tell the world that everybody is wrong but us. You need to come this way. And even Jesus told those Pharisees and others who were teachers of the law that you go over land and sea to make one convert. And when you convert them, you end up making them worse than you. And I used to wonder, how is that possible? Because they would come and they find out that we don't mean what we teach. We don't mean what we say. When we say that we are all one in Christ, we don't mean that. We don't mean that. A brother told me about a situation where a preacher's wife wrecked her car, and the next week she had a brand new car, and he attributed that to her being the wife of a preacher. And that's fine, but everybody in the church, especially those who are faithful, should have the same opportunities. We cry about the white man not giving black folks the opportunities that the white man have. What about the black church getting the opportunity that the black preacher has? Is Satan real? Until next time, I wish you freedom. I'm going to check in the live chat and see what Willie and Dunny has to say. Until next week, God bless you. Hey, Brother Walker, shalom to you. Satan is a part, this is Brother Willie, of our Christian narrative, living in the spiritual realm and exerting a force in the real world. Just like teaching about salvation, teaching about the root causes of all sin, which is monetary gain, whether ill-gotten or otherwise, if we're not careful, Satan, which also in us, will guide us. And definitely, I agree with that we have the ability, if you will, to act in defense of God or defense of Satan. I'm not talking about no little things sitting on my shoulder. I'm talking about in our brains, in our minds. Paul said concerning Jesus, let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus. Now, I don't necessarily believe in Jesus in terms of what we have made it out to be, because there was no such thing as Jesus in the time period that the Bible was written. Some of this stuff is made up. But in terms of the principles that are attributed to having been taught by Jesus, to love people the way you love yourself, do all of those things. And when we fail to do that, that's Satan. When we fail to do our very best to represent all that is good at all times, that is Satan. And we fail. I know I fail. I've been wrong so many times, but I have grown to at least I can admit that I have been wrong. And I'm saying that these churches, these preachers, and I blame the preachers because they are the spokesperson for the churches for the most part. They are the ones who are most visible. They are the ones who speak about the church and the church's progress and the church's works. And I'm saying, helping the poor, brothers, helping, there are people, you may not even understand, you may not even be able to relate to what it is like living on the streets of Los Angeles, California, having to live in your car, having to go around begging for a job, begging for a handout from somebody, and you go to your own church, and if they do anything, it's less than what you need. Maybe you all don't understand that, but if you do, open up your treasuries. You've been collecting money for over half of a century, some of you. Open up the treasury. You don't have that many expenses. If your mortgage is paid off, you're not paying taxes. Maybe you have signed an agreement with the United States that prohibits you from doing certain things. But if these things that you have signed are keeping you from helping your brothers and sisters in the church, that's Satan. And as you teach us and as we teach each other, we almost appear before the judgment seat of Christ. If that's true, you all are going to have to stand there. And it's ironic that one of the things that scholars say that Jesus was talking about in Matthew 23 at judgment as a king was about things that were not done for poor people. Poor people who didn't have enough food, water, clothing, housing, medication, and visitation. even people in prison. I'm going to be doing a conversation on prisons coming up soon. Does God love prisoners? Because based on the churches, apparently not. Once you go to jail, go to prison, you're on your own. We'll see you when you get out. Anyway, God bless you. Thank you, Willie. Thank you, Donnie. Until next time, I wish you freedom.